Hi, Jason here from Spiritualbabies.net. This is kind of a questiony vloggy question vlog, and someone asked me a question during the week, and I was going to type it all out, but it would have kind of taken too long, and maybe got lost in a couple of weeks. And I get asked sometimes because of the previous media and content that I've put up, why I make the choices I make, and so I figured I'd kind of bullet point where I am at the moment and answer this question. So the question was in response to I've been taking some parts of Psalms which I enjoy and expanding on them, putting my own slant on the Psalm, turning it into something that I might pray or praise with, and updating the language into language which I'm happy doing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an actual translation of the original text, just my interpretation of the text to make it more valid to the way I live my life. And so in that psalm, in this particular one, I used the 4 letters which make up the name of the creator, the Tetragrammaton. And one particular lady in response asked, it's good to see the name, well, responded and said, it's good to see the name. I'm wondering, have you in your learnings learned whether or not a non-Jew can say, or as best as we can derive his name? So I think that question is kind of multi-layered. I mean, the question encompasses A, can the name be said at all? B, what is the name, I think, is the core. C, if you are outside of Israel, can you say the name? If you consider yourself to be outside of Israel, can you say the name? Then it leads into what is Israel. If you're Jewish, can you say the name? If you're non-Jewish, can you say the name? It's the whole lot of stuff. So I'm going to try and answer those questions as easily as and quickly as I can, and if you go back through some of my old videos, you're going to find me referencing the creator by a very audible name, and that just shows the path I've traveled. And while I've gone back and changed where possible, where I've written out the name, and I've gone back and tried to change that name to the Tetragrammaton. In the audio, it's not so easy to do, and I had the choice of taking them down or leaving them up. But I figured I'd leave them up. I mean, I am at a point along a journey, and there were previous steps, and I think those previous steps are important to remember. And overall, the content of those videos is still valid. So if you do go back and you listen to one of those and the name pops up, just if you're not comfortable, grit your teeth and get through it. It'll be okay. You'll survive. Okay, so in response to your question, I'm going to give you a rough summary. I'm going to say this is the question I'm going to answer. Why do I choose to refer to the creator in my written text as a Tetragrammaton? Is that only for me? Is that for everybody? And why have I made that choice? As and I'll say off the start, I am not Jewish. Do I consider myself as a part of Israel? That's a difficult question. Is Israel only the Jewish people? Not according to the text. I think at this point in time, I'd consider myself a ger within the gates, a sojourner within the gates. I'd like to think that I'm included amongst Israel. You've got the Jewish people, you've got the children of Jacob, and I'd like to think that at the moment I am included within the community of that people. Do I want to convert? Yes, when I find the right path for me to do so. So brings me back. Okay, so I chose this Torah lifestyle a good few years ago now. I'm amazed at how many years it's been. And when I did, my understanding was God was called God, sometimes referred to as Lord. Jesus was also God, sometimes referred to as God, sometimes referred to as Lord, and that was it. And as I moved on through the Hebrew Roots movement, I was encouraged to start looking at the text from different perspectives, which is a good thing, and found out that actually God does have a name, and it's right there in the text. He asks that is the name he's called by and remembered by, and that name is made up of 4 Hebrew letters: the Yod, the Hey, and the Vav and Hey. At that point, I was listening to various different teachers and various different teachings, and as you sometimes do, I was taking everything I heard as gospel. That is a common complaint, if you like, symptom of the life I've come from. I mean, when you went to church, you got told what to think, and you got told what the text means. You got told how to interpret that text, how to live that text out in your life. You never really get asked a question, unless that question directly relates to a doctrinal choice you should already know, or they're trying to teach you. And I took that mindset of accept what you've learned, especially if the person seems cleverer than you, and soaked up like a sponge a lot of these early choices, early teachings that I heard from various different groups. So there is there are a few different names which the Yod, the Hey, the Vav and the Hey are translated as in different faith groups. You're going to find that different faith groups and different people have different interpretations. Sometimes that's a Y and a H and a W and a H. Sometimes it's a Y and a H and a V and a H. I go with the Y and a H and the V and a H. And because of that, then you're going to find that different Messianic ministries and different Christian ministries and Judaism as a whole are going to have different ways of producing that word. So, as an example, 119 and some other missionary groups, Hebrew missionary groups, refer to the name as Yahweh. I should have given you a spoiler. I'm going to say some words which you might be uncomfortable with. Say Yahweh. I don't buy that. I don't. From what I've read, it's not Hebraically possible for it to work out that way. But that doesn't matter. Say that up front. Doesn't matter. If you want to use that name, it's your choice. Okay, it's up to you. It really is. It's your choice. I'm trying not to get myself into any trouble. Okay, and there are some who go with the Christian interpretation that you're going to find a lot of King James Bibles, which is Jehovah, as made famous by the Indiana Jones movie. And if you want to go with that variant of the name, then you're more than welcome to. Again, it's your choice, and it's it's important that you figure out what you want and what you're comfortable with. There is another name which is quite popular, and it's the one that I tend to go with if I had to bring my self to pick, and that would be that King James version, but with the Y at the front instead of the J. I'm making a personal choice not to say it, although if you go back through any of my recordings from maybe a year ago or further on, you're going to find me saying it a lot. But I'm going to choose not to say it, and here is why I'm choosing not to say it. First of all, I chose to say it because I thought it was okay. I had read numerous arguments and statements to illustrate that it was okay and that we absolutely could do that. And, you know, I'm still 50-50 on whether we should or shouldn't. However, as this ger within the gates, this sojourner within the gates, this stranger within the gates, I am aware that Judaism, on the whole, doesn't say the name. Judaism refers to God by many, many names, but it doesn't refer to the Creator by the vocal pronouncement of the letters. And I, as a supporter of Judaism, as a student of Judaism, as if you want, a wannabe Jew, I've been called that before, and I think that I'm totally happy with that. It's been thrown at me as you're a wannabe Jew. Like, yes, I am. I absolutely am. One day I do want to be Jewish, and you know, what's the problem with that? And as such, I respect the choices that have been made thus far. And Zechariah says that, you know, a man of each of the 10 nations is going to grab the hem of the Jew and say, "We know God is with you." And I'm of the opinion that if that happened this afternoon, then it would be a world where the name isn't used in day-to-day conversation. And if that changes, if Jewish people change their stance on that, then I will go with that choice, because again, it's Yehuda that is carrying that torch and that people will go to, and so I'll abide by that choice. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. But when I write and I need to use the name, sometimes I'll use the phrase creator, master of the universe, king of the universe. I mean, there are so many amazing titles that you can give the creator, our Father in heaven, that I don't really need to use the name. And the exception to the rule is if I'm writing out the text. I have been approached privately by some people who are upset because when I extrapolate text, when I just plain write out text from the Psalms or from the Torah and put it onto my page or into a post, and I use the name, people get upset, and that's fine. But the reason I use the name is because my text uses the name, and my text says that there are 4 letters, and I don't want to change that text. I want to be as truthful and accurate as I can, although it's in a different language. I'm doing it in English. I don't want to be changing that text to say something else when it doesn't. So if it says the 4-letter word, I'm going to use the 4-letter word in English. And, so if that offends people, I'm sorry. I can't stop doing that any more than I can choose to make it write something that it doesn't write. I'm not going to. So while I won't say it, I will write it, but not in its full form with the vowel pointers and whatnot. And to be fair, no one's 100% sure of what the name is, what it sounds like. It's been such a long time. Everyone's got their opinion, and I'm 99% sure what I think it is. But we don't really know, and so I don't think there's any real harm in waiting until Mashiach comes, and we'll find out. When the boss man tells the Mashiach, and he tells us, and we'll all be cool, and we'll know. Everyone shall know, according to Jeremiah 31, the Creator, and now I can wait. So back to the original question. Can a non-Jew say the name? Yes, absolutely, a non-Jew can say the name. A Jew can say the name. Anyone can say the name. But that name is only going to be your option, your understanding of what that name is, and whether you should say the name or not is a different question to whether you can. I choose not to, as for the reasons I've said. but you might choose to, and it's up to you. I know plenty of my friends on my Facebook page who do use the name, and I get where they're coming from. With, you know, it appears in the text something like 6,400 times, and many of those times it says call on the name, and you know, so vocally you call out the name, and I don't have a problem with that either. I mean, there is a conception that Jewish people don't use the name, but they use it all the time. Private prayers and in your conversations with God in your own private space, when you plead or praise and you're talking to God in your head, you use the name. I use it. I call him by the name that I think he's to be called by. I just don't talk about it on the bus, or you know, up and down the street, or in the programs anymore, because A, there's no need to, and B, I want to abide by the tradition at the moment. So don't be thinking that Jewish people don't use the name. They absolutely do use it. They just don't use it orally, vocally, in everyday chat. So that was what, 16 minutes, and I'm probably not going to cut any of this. I'm just going to let it go. If you can hear the dishwasher going, I apologise for that. But you know, who wants to read off dirty dishes? Maybe I will cut some of it. So I hope that answered your question. I'm sure that most people won't agree, and that's fine. Again, you get to choose where you want to go. I'm just trying to explain where I've come from so far. And if you take anything away from this, take away the fact that you have to learn and research why you made the choices you've made, whether that be your acceptance or non-acceptance of the Christian faith, your acceptance or non-acceptance of Hebrew roots, I guess that's the same thing, acceptance and non-acceptance of Judaism, or Torah observance and not Judaism. Why have you made that choice? Don't just accept what people tell you. Go and have a look for yourself, learn it out, and then make a conclusion. And then don't be afraid to approach that conclusion 6 months later and see if it still holds true with what you've learned up to thus far. I've changed my mind on so many things over the last 5 years, and the name is just one of them. And I think at the moment I'm comfortable with where I am with it, and I think that's quite important. But don't be thinking just because somebody says, you know, you should absolutely use the name, the text says so. Have a look at where the context of the text says so, and who's saying that, and you know, if they've got some agenda. I mean, it's not uncommon for strawberry farmers to try and sell you strawberries. That's what I'm saying. So that's me done. Thanks for watching, and this is my Mario outfit. This is my red t-shirt and my dungarees and my hat, and I feel, you know, Super Mario. If ever there's a costume ball, I'm gonna go Super Mario. I'm all set up. So thanks very much for listening, and this is a vlog. I haven't done a vlog for a while. I'm going to try and do more in future. If you've got questions, please fire them at me on Facebook, and maybe I'll vlog an answer. Toodaloo.